I'm Raymond Arroyo in for Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle from New York City tonight. Happy New Year to you all. The Democrats are in control of the House for one full day, and they're already making their embarrassing priorities known. I'll explain in moments. And President Trump says he could get the border wall built without Congress, and warning this shutdown could last years. One of the border agents who spoke alongside the president yesterday joins us. Plus, newly minted Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez making a splash on Capitol Hill, comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln and saying that wealthy people should be taxed at a much, much higher rate. We'll get into it all with Corey Lewandowski, and we'll compare the first Speaker Pelosi to the latest iteration. Our panel will react. Also, will he or won't he? Comedian Kevin Hart may get his Academy Awards hosting gig back, and Ellen DeGeneres is taking heat for giving him a pass on an old LGBT joke or two. But first, the internet is exploding with people griping about Netflix's new interactive film, Black Mirror Bandersnatch. It had been hyped as a choose-your-own-adventure experience where your choices can lead to unexpected and incredible storylines. I won't describe what happens to the lead character, Stefan, but suffice it to say, no matter what options you choose as you watch the film, you basically get the same endings. The more novel choices I made, the more frustrated I became with the preordained finales that continued to pop up. And it got me thinking, this is what the American voter has been going through for decades. Every couple of years, we go to the polls thinking, we're going to control the new narrative. We're going to change things. Now we're going to get the ending we want. In 2016, Donald Trump ran on a couple of key issues: reviving the economy, righting trade imbalances, and
to build a wall.
Like those Bandersnatch viewers, people made their choice. In this case, Trump, because he was a change agent who was going to finally give them border security and a wall. But due to establishment Republicans and Democrats, the people didn't get the ending they expected. So they went to the polls again in the midterms. Republicans held the Senate, but Democrats picked up 40 seats in the House, mostly to be a check on Trump. Now, voters didn't suddenly reject their desires for a thriving economy and a border wall. They just wanted some checks and balances in place. Now we find ourselves in the midst of a government shutdown.
We've been working very, very hard. The wall is, we've done a lot of miles of wall already. So we're not just starting off fresh, but we have large numbers of miles that we have to do. And we can't let gaps, because if you have gaps, those people are going to turn their vehicles, or the gangs they're going to be coming in through those gaps, and we cannot let that happen.
Is there any situation in which you would accept even $1 of wall funding for this president in order to reopen the government?
$1? $1? $1? Yeah, $1.
This is not a policy debate at all. Democrats, including Speaker Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, have long supported and voted for border fences and barriers. And the president ran on this. So what we are seeing is a political standoff. The voter keeps hitting the fund government and border wall choice, but nothing happens. They hit it over and over again, but they're trapped in the same old narrative no matter what they do. Ryan and McConnell didn't deliver, but they somehow found billions for more defense spending while blowing right through those spending caps. Now Pelosi and McConnell are stiffing the voters as well. The American people want both parties to work together because they imagine that adults can work across the aisle to soberly and responsibly keep the government open and protect their national security. They like the idea of parties collaborating to create the best outcome for the American people. But hard as they press that button, no matter how many times they try to choose a different outcome, the same old story comes back at them like Bandersnatch. The people got a heavy sell this week.
Freshman class that came in a democratic wave, and a freshman class that is more diverse, frankly, looks more like the country than any freshman class in history.
Notably, this will be the most diverse Congress ever.
This new Democratic caucus in the House will be very diverse, not only biographically, as we've been talking, people from a lot of different backgrounds, but ideologically as well.
Open up government. Let's have an adult conversation about how we protect our borders.
But no sooner did Speaker Mimi's grandchildren leave the dais than her caucus started sounding like, well, nasty kids.
Americans elected an authoritarian, anti-immigrant, racist strongman to the nation's highest office. Much like Hitler took over the Nazi Party, Trump has taken over the Republican Party.
Those who say I'm going to spend all of my time trying to get subpoenas and trying to do investigations, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to spend some of my time.
This is newly minted Congresswoman Rahida Tlaib of Michigan last night.
When your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
If this Congresswoman and the Democratic leadership considered this their mission, they should have all run on it. It is clearly not what the people wanted. They didn't vote for more political acrimony and blood sport in Washington. They want solutions that affect their lives. Armed with subpoena power, Democrats are planning to investigate the personal and professional life of this president and every official in his orbit, with the goal of driving him from office. As for the voters, well, they're stuck in a Bandersnatch-like loop, having to suffer through storylines they never bargained for with no way out. Should this continue, they might be tempted to do what so many Netflix viewers taking part in that interactive movie did during the holidays and just turn it all off. But that's just what the politicians want you to do. Look away so they can dictate how you'll live and what you'll spend your money on. With so much at stake for American citizens, withdrawal is not an option. You'll have to stay engaged. Our future hangs in the balance. And by the way, the term Bandersnatch, I found out this week, comes from Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass in one of his subsequent poems. It is described as a creature with a long neck and snapping jaws. But I'm sure it's only fictional. Who would ever choose a storyline with something like that in it? Joining me now is Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union, along with Dee Dawkins-Heidler. She's a Democratic strategist. Thank you both for being here. Before we start, I want to play something very quickly for you both. This is Speaker Pelosi responding to Congresswoman Tlaib's impeachment threat tonight. Listen.
Well, I'm not in the censorship business. I don't think that, I mean, I don't like that language. I wouldn't use that language. I don't, again, establish any language standards for my colleagues. But I don't think it's anything worse than what the president has said.
Did you notice the framing on that? It's all about the language. And President Trump responded this way.
Well, I thought her comments were disgraceful. This is a person that I don't know. I assume she's new. I think she dishonored herself, and I think she dishonored her family. Using language like that in front of her son and whoever else was there, I thought that was a great dishonor to her and to her family. I thought it was highly disrespectful to the United States of America.
Matt, everyone is focusing on the crudeness from the Congresswoman, and it really was crass. But is the language really the outrage here?
No, not at all. What's going on, I can't believe I'm going to say these words, but I actually feel somewhat sorry for Nancy Pelosi. She has got a gaggle full of nitwits that she has to deal with, people who are just, they're rambunctious, they're radicalized. She got like only 2 extra votes. You remember this? She got 219 votes to be speaker. She's trapped in a crazy caucus where if she repudiates their statements, which are clearly outrageous and over the top, she loses support in her caucus. So I actually feel somewhat sorry for her. She's, in a way, the grown-up in the room, but she's stuck.
Dee, I was more taken aback by the hateful approach, kind of untethered from the facts. I mean, isn't it a little early to talk about impeachment? And what do you make of Matt's comments?
Well, actually, I think that Nancy Pelosi has the best Congress ever, with more diversity than we've ever seen in this country. And so for you to say that this conversation is new, people have been talking about impeaching Trump since he was elected. I mean, I don't even know if he was truly elected. We had Russian bots and everything else happening in this country. And
I know, but you talk about diversity, but the diversity, it's so diverse. Nobody's reading from the same hymnal here. As Speaker, you've got to get a caucus to move as one, not move in 50 directions.
No, I think it is very diverse, and I think they are going to move in the right direction. This is only really the beginning. I mean, we're only on day 2. We have to give it time to work through the process. But the Republicans have had 2 years to work on border control, and they have done absolutely nothing. And now that the Democrats in control, maybe we'll actually see something happen.
Raymond, I applaud the Democrats on diversity. I think that is something the Republican Party needs to do a much better job at. I think the numbers of Republican women in the House is really something we need to improve on. But I love this new line of attack. The president doesn't need to be impeached because he wasn't lawfully elected. This is the kind of crazy talk we must stop doing. The president was elected to be the president of the United States. Now just go beat him in his reelect. But stop the insanity of somehow bots elected our president.
Didn't
That's
even
insane.
win the popular vote.
You don't need to win the popular vote,
and we know that the Russians colluded with the Republican Party, so we already know he's probably not the legitimately elected president.
Today there were Congress people that brought up articles of impeachment as well as bills to eradicate the Electoral College, Matt. So it is showing, I mean, this does show a rather extreme movement deep within the Democratic Party that it's going to be very difficult for Pelosi to reconcile that with her talk of we're the only adults in the room, we are the ordered party. But stand by, panel, as the showdown enters its second weekend, neither President Trump nor the Democrats are backing down from the border wall funding demands. Earlier, I hit the streets of New York to see where people stand on this shutdown over the wall. Watch.
I think it's difficult to keep the government closed because we do know people in the military and, you know, they can't really afford for that to happen. But at the same time, we've got to draw the line somewhere, and I do believe in a wall. We do need to protect our borders. There's no doubt.
Do you believe the government should remain shut down?
Until we get funding for the wall, absolutely.
Really, why?
Well, first of all, we need it. Border security is very important in this country, and Democrats just don't want to budge on it.
No, I don't support it at all. I think it's ridiculous.
Yes and no. Okay. I support the wall, but I think he needs to keep the government open for the families that's their living.
Very quickly, Matt, Dee brought up the point that McConnell and Paul Ryan did not deliver the wall funding for Donald Trump. Where was McConnell today when Trump stood with the other Republican leaders? Where is he?
Look, I think the way Mitch McConnell does not like shutdowns. He's never been for them. You know he's uncomfortable with this whole process. By the same token, I think he's done something very wise in saying he's not going to let the legislation that comes out of the House even hit the floor in the Senate. He's standing with the president during this shutdown. I actually think Republicans are amazingly united in this fight for wall funding.
Dee, your take.
I think that McConnell is just doing what he needs to do because he knows that Trump is not going to sign the bill. I mean, it's really idiotic for the government to be shut down behind a wall. You have millions of Americans who are being affected and can't even pay their bills because the government has shut down. We should be concerned about border security, but we should also be concerned about what's happening inside of our own borders right now, and they are not safe. I mean, we have criminals and mass shootings almost daily. So we need to look inside before we look without.
Matt and Dee, I want you to react to this.
Government back up.
Senators Cory Gardner and Susan Collins want to pass bills to fund the government and end the shutdown. Now, Republicans here seem to be breaking ranks, Matt. Where does this leave the president?
Well, it takes more than a dozen Republicans to break ranks and join Chuck Schumer to work with Nancy Pelosi to come up with a Democratic option to open up the government. Raymond, I just don't see that materializing at all. You're going to have a handful of Republicans. Maybe Mitt Romney will join them and a few others. But basically, as I said, Republicans stand united in this idea because this shutdown is about one simple but yet important thing, the wall. It's very clear Republicans and conservatives and Trump supporters are for it. And when we fight for it, we are united.
Dee, I'll give you the last word.
Thank you. The American people are against the wall. We're against the government shutdown, and we need to be more concerned about the hundreds of thousands of Americans who are now working without pay. We need to be concerned about our people and how they're going to pay their bills and how they're going to take care of their families. So we need to open up the government and then work on everything else after that.
When they're not getting paid, they're not working, just to be clear. That's what the whole shutdown is all about.
Well, thank you, panel. Today, the president floated a novel way to end the shutdown and get his border wall built. Listen.
Have you considered using emergency powers to grant yourself authorities to build this wall without congressional approval? And second,
Yes,
on
I have.
Mexico, you have.
Yes, I have. And I can do it if I want.
So you don't need congressional approval to build the wall?
No, we can use them. Absolutely. We can call a national emergency because of the security of our country. Absolutely. No, we can do it. I haven't done it. I may do it. I may do it. But we can call a national emergency and build it very quickly. And it's another way of doing it. But if we can do it through a negotiated process, we're giving that a shot.
So is that a threat hanging over the Democrats?
I never threaten anybody. But I am allowed to do that, yes.
Here to debate what the president has raised is Art Del Cueto, spokesman for the National Border Patrol Council, who shared the podium with the president yesterday, along with Joe Alioto Veronese. He is the former member of the San Francisco Police Commission. Joe, what about allocating defense funds for the wall? What's wrong with that?
Well, first of all, it's not legal. We know that if he did this emergency declaration, that the DOD owns probably about 5% of the land along that border, and if any money is appropriated to the southern border that's not specifically for the construction of a wall, it would be illegal to use those funds for a wall. So, of course, we're going to see another legal challenge, and I don't think, frankly, that the president wants to go there. He hasn't been very successful in the past with legal challenges, and I think he's right. I think the best route is to get back to negotiating. Now that he's got a Democratic Congress, he's got to deal with that. And I think really that's what the people of the United States want to see. They want to see our government back to work, and they want to see, compromise. They want to see a conversation of ideas. This whole thing about a wall that has been tossed around over the last few months or over the last 2 years, nobody quite really knows what that even means, because Democrats will fund.
What do you mean you don't know what it means?
Security.
It's a fence, it's a barrier, it's a wall, it's a blockade.
It's a fence.
Everybody knows what it means.
For a lot of people, it's different things. It's for President Trump, it's an actual wall. We can have a security wall down there that is a virtual wall that we use technology
that doesn't stop the drug traffickers
and the Democrats
or facilitate apprehensions. There's a new poll out that 49% of voters consider immigration a top issue that they'd like to see addressed this year. Art, does what we're seeing on the border qualify as a national emergency, as the president is floating the possibility of declaring it?
It definitely does. The numbers it's shown that the numbers are going up. There's more individuals that are entering. Listen, our agents have been getting attacked by some of these Central Americans. They've been very aggressive towards our agents. In the end, we need to start thinking about the agents. We need to start thinking about the security of our nation's borders. And I think that is what we're missing here.
Joe, there are 2,400 troops on the border. The Department of Homeland Security is requesting more to reinforce existing fencing. Would you support that deployment?
Here's what I would support. I would support sound immigration policy that deals with this emergency that I would agree with Art on, this emergency that's existing at the border. And I think that's really what Americans want to see. But we've got this stalemate now where the executive and the legislative branch aren't working together. We've got to get them back working together. We need compromise. We need sound immigration policy. We need to fix this. Look. What's happening in the United States is not good when it comes to immigration policy. But the Mexicans aren't happy about the guns, the U.S. guns that are traveling into Mexico. And the president had an opportunity when he renegotiated the NAFTA deal for some sort of cooperation along that border. And I think that was a real missed opportunity.
Well, no, but they are cooperating. They are absorbing the refugees. They're keeping a lot of those refugees. That came out of the NAFTA conversations, Joe.
That's partial. They're part of this problem. They're also part of the solution.
Well, he doesn't control Mexico, and you've got a new president, that he's dealing with now. Finally, Art, your reaction to that. Should we deploy more troops there? And then I have a quick piece of video I need to play for you.
You know, honestly, every time we get more eyes down there, it helps the agents and it helps them be able to do their jobs. So, you know, the more hands we get down there, the better it is. In the end, what you need is the agents to actually affect the apprehensions. Boots on the ground is what's important. You know, when we talk about the wall, we've never said it's the be-all, end-all. We know that people are still going to find a way to get through, but it acts as a very good deterrent. And it gives the agents enough time to go to those areas and effect those arrests.
Art, very quickly, I got to play this sound for you. Donnie Deutsch today referenced you alongside the president yesterday in the press room. Listen.
Well, that was very clear. You have, I mean, you have 4 white men. You have 4 stoic, strong white men of a certain age, not smiling, by the way. And, you know, look, this is all Donald has left. He has one thing. This wall is not a wall. It is a let's keep America white again. And basically, he doesn't have the economy anymore.
Art, your reaction to that? He basically said you're one of those stoic white men standing by the president.
Well, I think that's a little racist, and I'm sorry if I don't meet the expectations of what a Latino is supposed to look like. I'm light-skinned and I got green eyes, and I'm Latino, and I support the United States of America. I support this president, and I'm very proud to be living in this country, the best country in the world. And, you know, hey, I'm sorry if I don't meet your expectations of what a Hispanic is supposed to look like. Who's the real racist here?
Art and Joe, thank you both for being here. Up next, socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has a great new plan to pay for her Green New Deal. Just double a few tax rates. We'll debate it next.
Let's get inaugurated January 3rd, January 4th. We're signing health care. We're signing this. We're decarcerating our society.
Welcome back to the Ingraham Angle. New York's newest Congresswoman, socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is already making waves on Capitol Hill. In addition to Medicare for all, free college, and her plan to abolish ICE, the 29-year-old now says she wants to radically tax the rich to pay for the left's environmental agenda known as the Green Deal.
Once you get to like the tippy tops, on your 10 millionth dollar, sometimes you see tax rates as high as 60 or 70%. That doesn't mean all $10 million are taxed at an extremely high rate, but it means that as you climb up this ladder, you should be contributing more.
Here now, Corey Lewandowski, former Trump 2016 campaign manager and co-author of the new book, Trump's Enemies, and Nomiki Konst. She is a candidate for New York City public advocate. Now, before I get your take, both of you, on this, here are some taxpayers' reactions today. Watch.
The 1% does need to be taxed more than they are, but at the same time, Trump's tax policy is helping the economy, and the economy is going well. So I can't really take a side on that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
70%?
70%? I think it should be more than it is.
So, it's at 39% now.
Right.
So, I mean, kind of...
Well, top 1%, that's not me. Yeah. So, you know, fair's fair.
My guess is she didn't ask Nancy Pelosi or Bernie Sanders or the other 1%ers of her party what they think.
Now, Nomiki, is this a winning strategy to tax upper income earners in this way? Really?
Yes, income inequality is worse than it's ever been in America. We're talking after Wall Street crashed in 1929, income inequality was not that bad. New York City, in particular, generates more wealth than anywhere on the planet, yet we have the worst income inequality. And a lot of that comes from the billionaires here who are not paying taxes.
Okay,
the corporate real estate class.
Doesn't this take away and sap the incentive to join that billionaire class, to strive for that, to be the next Oprah, to be the next Bloomberg? Doesn't that deprive you of that initiative? If you know you're going to be taxed, and in New York, by the way, place you want to run, if you took the 70% tax rate that she's proposing and slapped your local taxes on it, you're talking about an 82.7% tax rate.
Oh, womp, womp. For the 1% who have had tax breaks, hundreds of trillions of dollars of tax breaks, which have starved our housing, our schools, our infrastructure, our MTA. We're talking about a decrepit city that generates more wealth, and it's because these 0.1% are not paying taxes. We're not talking about you and me.
Taxes.
We're not even talking about you.
They're opening new businesses. They're opening new businesses. And the economy, the reason the economy is exploding is because of that money. Oh, come on.
Our taxpayer dollars are paying for helicopter
I've got to move on now, Nomiki. Give everybody their time. Corey, Anderson Cooper challenged, to his credit, Cortez. Listen.
I think that it only has ever been radicals that have changed this country. Abraham Lincoln made the radical decision to sign the Emancipation Proclamation. Franklin Delano Roosevelt made the radical decision to embark on establishing programs like Social Security. That is radical.
Do you call yourself a radical?
Yeah, you know, if that's what radical means, call me a radical.
Corey, your reaction?
Oh, boy. Look, it's amazing. You know, she's been in office exactly about 24 hours, and she's comparing herself to FDR and JFK and Lincoln. Look, there's a long way to go, but what she is advocating for is a tax rate of 83% in California, 85% in New York City, to her close personal friends like Michael Bloomberg, who's created tens of thousands of jobs, right? Because they're the ones who are going to be paying for this.
Donald Trump
Michael
is actually
Bloomberg is a
golfed
1%er.
with Michael Bloomberg. I think Michael Bloomberg was at Donald Trump's wedding. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez lives in my neighborhood in Queens. I don't know what you're talking about, Corey. You live in another universe.
She's the one who just said that the rich, the 1%, should pay 70% on top of the 8% sales tax, 8% tax.
Oh no,
in
the
New
rich
York,
have to
and
pay
the
taxes
4%.
like us working
right,
people
so Michael
who are making
Bloomberg,
$15
so Michael
an hour.
Bloomberg should pay more. Look,
Absolutely,
so
and
Michael
Donald
Bloomberg and so what stops those billionaires from paying more right now? There's nothing that prohibits them from paying more right now.
Oh,
they
is it
can do that if they
voluntary?
want to. Why can't they if they want to? If they're so concerned,
Because they're making money off the backs of working people.
I want you both to react to this.
You mean like Jeff Bezos does?
Yes.
Okay, now,
Yes.
easy, guys.
Like Jeff Bezos does.
The new numbers today, the numbers of jobs added to this economy, 312,000 jobs added, 2.6 million jobs added in the entire year. You have wages going up 3.2%. These are some record and incredible numbers. Are you worried that if you move to this type of tax system, and by the way, Rosa DeLauro in Connecticut, she's proposing hiking taxes up to 5% from 0.9% to 4% for Obamacare. Is this what we need more of, and might this disturb the economic renaissance we're in the midst of? Corey, you first.
Look, it's very simple. Donald Trump has created more jobs in the manufacturing space in 2 years than Barack Obama did in 2 terms. And the bottom line is, if you raise taxes on people who are creating jobs, they're going to stop creating jobs. If you raise the interest rates, they'll stop investing money. They'll stop borrowing money. And that has a trickle-down effect. Donald Trump's tax policies of cutting taxes for everyone across the board has worked. And if you don't believe me, go look at the numbers of the unemployment rate for Hispanics and African Americans in our country. They're at record lows because of the job-creating opportunities that these tax cuts have put in place.
Now, no, Miki.
No, that's true.
The Hispanic numbers, the unemployment Hispanic numbers, look, I'm a Latino. The Hispanic numbers are at the bottom, historic lows of unemployment. You have more workplace participation among Hispanics than ever before. So what's wrong with that? Isn't that an economy working?
No, it's not an economy working.
Oh, it isn't?
Because right now,
how would it work?
So let me explain to you. Wages are lower than ever, and you don't have benefits. So yes, people are working 2 jobs, but they're still not able to make the rent. Rent is higher than it's ever been. And wages are lower. So when you don't have benefits, if you break your arm, this is absolutely true, Corey, it's called economy, and maybe you should read Jeffrey Sachs, because when you break your arm and you suddenly are bankrupt because you don't have health care, that is why when you pay for taxes and you pay into Medicare, it prevents you from going into bankruptcy. Okay. So it's not just that wages need to be higher. People are working more and the cost of living is higher, and then they're going bankrupt for basic necessities like
crime is down, unemployment is down. This is a wonderful thing.
And there are no benefits.
There are benefits. When people are working, they're not involved in crime. Go ahead, very quickly, Corey, because I got to get to one more topic.
In history.
Okay.
If this took place under the Obama economy, you'd be praising him as the greatest president since probably Lincoln. Oh wait, she already did that. That she's the greatest since Lincoln.
That's not true at all.
Okay. And by the way, Bernie Sanders wants to add 2.2% to the payroll tax, amongst other things that he wants to add more taxes on, which I'm sure you're in favor of.
I want to quiet it for a moment so you can fight over something else. I want to get your thoughts on these new reports that Hillary Clinton is meeting with possible 2020 Democrats, because her own campaigns went so swimmingly. She reportedly met with Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, among others. Namiki, why are Democrats coming to kiss this woman's ring? 36% approval rating in the recent polls. How is that a plus for them?
If you want to beat Donald Trump, you have to have a movement. You have to have a working people's movement. I think too many Democrats, the majority of status quo Democrats, are too too worried about raising money. And what does Secretary Clinton have? She has a lot of donors, and she has a lot of access to infrastructure that they think will get them the win against Donald Trump. I'm supporting Bernie Sanders because he has a movement of millions of working activists across America who are ready to fight and have been fighting for things like Medicare for all, cancellation of student debt, and the Green New Deal.
Corey, she makes a great point there about Sanders really did awaken a grassroots movement. If I were one of these Democratic candidates, I'd probably be beating a path to Michelle Obama's house and becoming her best friend, given those book sales and the recent polls about that. Your reaction to all these Democrats kissing Hillary's ring?
Well, look, I'll give you credit. Bernie Sanders had the second largest crowds of any candidate in the last election cycle behind Donald Trump, so he clearly had a movement behind him.
No Russians.
But the system was rigged against him. Look, the only Russians that were involved were in the Clinton campaign when she took $5 million from a law firm and gave it to a British spy to go to the Russian and put together the dossier. That's your party that did that, not the Republican Party. So let's just be clear about that.
One more thing, hot off the live stream.
But the bottom line is this. Any candidate who's looking for Hillary Clinton's endorsement is going to lose. She ran a terrible campaign. She had a terrible operation in place. And she lost a campaign that every pundit thought she should have won.
Okay, I got to go to this. I'm going to run out of time, and I want to show my people this. Be quiet just for 1 second. Hot off the live stream, beer drinking, down to earth, talk with real Americans. Senator Elizabeth Warren is spending the weekend with voters in Iowa, and there's a drinking theme here. She's in an Iowa saloon tonight. She said this just minutes ago.
I'm not a career politician. I never thought I'd run for public office. I never thought of this. What pulls me into the fight is that I got a chance as a kid. And that chance was because taxpayers invested in public schools.
Okay. Who's buying this? I'll start with you, Nomiki.
Well, you know, the old adage, it's the politician you want to have a beer with. That's why supposedly George W. Bush won against Al Gore.
It looks like she just discovered where the beer was. What do you mean the one you'd like to have a beer with? Corey, your take.
I have a sippy cup of wine in the back.
Look, Elizabeth Warren, she's a terrible candidate. She's had a terrible launch so far. She launched that time when no one's paying attention. She took the DNA test to prove that she is no more Native American than, I am, and I'm not a Native American. I'm proud of that fact that, I understand that, and she doesn't yet, regardless of what my cheekbones look like, right? What? My family never told me I was. They didn't lie to me.
What are you talking about?
Look, the bottom line is, that's what, if you know anything about Elizabeth Warren, she said she was Native American because she had high cheekbones.
I think you all have lovely cheekbones. Let me leave it there. Great conversation. When we come back, Ellen DeGeneres is doing her best to get Kevin Hart back in the Oscars host race, and she's facing some backlash of her own. Why is it so hard to find an Oscar host? Ellen will tell us. Stay there.
I vote for you. I called them. I said, Kevin's on. I have no idea if he wants to come back and host, but what are your thoughts?
He's in, he's out. He's in, he's out. I can't keep up with this whole Kevin Hart Oscar saga. The Academy Awards is still without a host, and now Hart may actually be back in the running, thanks to Ellen DeGeneres. But not everyone is so enthused. Trace Gallagher is in our West Coast newsroom with the latest. Trace?
Raymond, good evening. Kevin Hart was confirmed as the Oscars host back on December 4th, but within 24 hours, anti-gay tweets and jokes from 8 or 9 years ago resurfaced, ginning up big-time backlash. 2 days later, on December 6th, Hart posted an Instagram video accusing critics of being negative, and another saying the Academy had asked him to apologize, but that he'd refused. Later that night, the comedian changed his mind, tweeting that he'd be stepping down because, quote, I do not want to be a distraction on a night that should be celebrated by so many amazing, talented artists. I sincerely apologize to the LGBTQ community for my insensitive words from my past. But his interview today with Ellen DeGeneres, who came out publicly in 1997, may lead to another about-face. After Ellen revealed she personally called the Academy to ask if they would take him back. Watch.
They were like, oh, my God, we want him to host. We feel like that maybe he misunderstood or it was handled wrong or maybe we said the wrong thing, but we want him to host. Whatever we can do, we would be thrilled. And he should host. You have grown. You have apologized. You're apologizing again right now. You've done it. Don't let those people win. Host the Oscars.
After Hart said he would evaluate the possibility of returning, Ellen tweeted, quote, "I believe in forgiveness, I believe in second chances, and I believe in Kevin Hart." But then DeGeneres got called out on Twitter, with one person saying, quote, "Kevin's attacks were geared towards black gay men. That being said, you have no authority to forgive him on behalf of a section of the community you don't belong to." And this, quote, "Forgiveness happens when someone sincerely apologizes, makes amends, and shifts spiritually. Still waiting on steps number 2 and 3. And lastly, this one, quote, "No, Ellen, just no. There need to be consequences for such vitriolic homophobia. Love you, but you're way off base on this." So far, no word from the Academy on if they're considering a reinstatement, but the show will go on as planned on February 24th. Raymond.
Thank you, Trace. Joining me now to react is actor Antonio Sabato Jr. and Megan Alexander, a correspondent at Inside Edition. Megan, I want to start with you. What is Ellen DeGeneres about here? What's the game? When I read this, I thought maybe the Academy Awards are kind of conspiring with her to rehabilitate Kevin Hart because they're out of options. They don't have a host.
Yeah, you know, Raymond, regardless, words like second chances, forgiveness, words we don't often hear in our culture, sounds an awful lot like the gospel of grace to me. So no matter what, I think it's very cool that Ellen decided to give Kevin this platform, a full hour. I encourage everyone to watch this interview in a Twitter and soundbite culture. It was really refreshing. It reminded me of Oprah's interviews of the past where you got that long conversation with somebody. I think there may be too much heated conversation here, and if that is the case, I actually believe the Oscars have an opportunity to go in a fresh direction if it doesn't end up being Kevin Hart. And again, Ellen's making a big push here. Yeah. I say connect with middle America. Connect with the average person. We've long said that Hollywood is out of touch, and I would make the case that you actually have some people that could work. How about Chris Pratt, a box office star and somebody that talks openly about his faith? Maybe Reese Witherspoon, who, although a very successful actress, still feels like the girl next door and someone we could be friends with. Raymond, they have a viewership problem regardless, and I think this is an opportunity for them to really take a look at who could bring back those middle America viewers.
Yeah, Antonio, I remember when we were growing up, it was Bob Hope and Johnny Carson, and these were figures that we didn't know what their politics were, but they united the country. Maybe a Chris Pratt's not a bad idea. What do you make of that?
It's not a bad idea. This is a good time right now to, I mean, I really appreciate what Helen has done. And Kevin is a good comedian. I mean, he made mistakes. We all make mistakes. At some point, we want to ask for forgiveness and move on. I mean, this year, I want to focus on positive. I want to focus on bringing Hollywood together, and this is a good chance to do so. We have to do a lot of work, but we'll see what happens.
Are you all both worried? I'm concerned as I watch this. I'm going to play a clip of Kevin Hart, but it seems we're conscripting comedy and what comedians can discuss. So you can't now talk about LGBT people. We can't talk about Italians. We can't talk about Spanish. We can't talk about this or that. Pretty soon they'll only be able to discuss cats and DMV lines. I mean, we've got to broaden the comedic offerings. Go ahead.
I mean, excuse me, they can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want about our president or the Republican Party. But anytime we don't agree with the Democrats in Hollywood, you know, hell breaks loose. And we just got to change that. We got to bring people together. I always ask, you know, people like George Clooney, people like that, just to come out and help us, you know, come together. Let's help the people of this country. Let's bring Hollywood together. Let's bring it like the old days, like you said. Yeah. And we have a lot of work to do, and we can start right now.
No, we need it. I want to play this for you, and I think it's pretty clear. Hollywood has a hate-hate relationship with the president, but actress and co-host of the Golden Globes, Sandra Oh, is saying this. She says during her award show, quote, "I'm not interested in talking about Trump at all. What I'm interested in is pointing to actual real change. I want to focus on that cause. People can poo-poo Hollywood all they want, but we also make culture." Is this a sign that Hollywood is finally realizing that the divisive politics is not working for them? Megan.
I actually agree with Sandra. Raymond, I do think this is a step in the right direction. A lot of people say celebrate the art, celebrate the entertainment, give us an escape. And I would encourage Sandra to take a cue from Carrie Underwood and Brad Paisley, who hosted the CMA Awards in November. They had not one political joke, not one controversial subject on that stage. Viewers loved it. So give us the art. And yes, celebrate movies like Black Panther that are breaking box office records with $1.3 billion. Focus on the art and entertainment.
Antonio, do you agree?
I agree 100%. We got to do even more than that. We got to bring the young community, the kids, the children who are watching these movies and bring them together. Let's bring the country together this time around. Let's not. 2018 is gone. Now let's move on forward.
I agree.
Love, care, peace, and bring the country together.
The arts, film, theater, music, this once brought us together as a country. We need that glue as a culture again. Thank you both for being here. Coming up, a media meltdown. Why is everyone so obsessed with this video of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Speaker Nancy then and now? That's next. Down over newly unearthed video of everyone's favorite new congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm going to learn how to say her name someday. But what's the big deal? She was in college, and a girl's got to dance. Joining me now to react to this is Candace Owens, Communications Director for Turning Point USA, and Kathy Aru, publisher of Catalina magazine, here in studio with me. Ladies, your reaction to this. I'll start with you, Candace. This seems to my eye, I have to tell you, for people who know the Breakfast Club, and I do, I recognized the dance the minute I saw it. What's the problem here, Candace?
There isn't a problem. I don't think that anybody is saying that there's a problem with this. It simply went viral because she's a public figure and she's dancing kind of terribly, and it's something that people just laugh at. It's totally harmless. I don't think that there's anything wrong here. What I see a problem with is that they keep continually infantilizing her in the media. They're pretending like she's some 13-year-old girl who's constantly under attack by the boogeyman, white GOP old men who are out to get her and want to ban dancing, and that's just patently false. She's constantly under attack because of her poor ideas. She's pushing communism and socialism, ideas that were perpetuated by Lenin and Stalin before her. That's why she's become a target in the media, not because she's simply dancing.
Kathy Aru, I want to get your reaction, but first I have to show you this. Kamala Harris, she did a little dance to kind of offset the criticism.
Everyone's dancing.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's dancing now. And there she is, including Cortez herself, who outside her office did her own spoof of this. What do you make of this? Is this a non-story?
At the beginning, they said she was a nitwit. So they did come against her. So Candace was saying that they weren't fighting against her, but they were. The GOP was saying she's a nitwit. Look at her dancing.
GOP, but there were people. There were
people, perhaps, yes, the conservatives that were saying she's a nitwit. That was actually the term that they used. But now they're saying she's adorable because I think the more they watch it, they realize it's it's G-rated.
Well, I would prefer her on Dancing with the Stars rather than Congress. I mean, she has a better grasp.
I mean, she wasn't in Congress when she did that.
I agree, but I don't mind. But I don't mind that. I think it's fun. I think it's playful.
Right, nothing's wrong with it.
As Candace said, it's the policies that are concerning. I also want to get your thoughts on this. This float appeared in the Middletown Hummers New Year's Day parade, and it has a lot of people triggered. You can see why. It has a sign saying Border Detention Center with a nearly naked adult in one cage and a child in a cowboy hat in the other. Candace, your reaction to this?
Look, I've read the articles surrounding this, and it's such a non-controversy. It just points to the same thing as last year. Welcome to 2019, where everything's racist and everything's sexist and everybody needs to be offended at every turn. We have to stop this, and you brought this up in an earlier segment. We're killing comedy and we're killing humor, and that's a problem because that really is the glue and the fabric that keeps Americans together during such divisive times. I mean, just a couple of decades ago, we would all be making fun of each other. You would go and see Chris Rock and a stand-up, and he'd make fun of me for being black, and he'd make fun of Kathy for being Cuban, and we'd all laugh together and walk out feeling better about ourselves. We can't do that anymore in this society. I think that it's sad. It's something that we're actually missing.
Do you think? See, I wish I could bring Don Rickles back from the dead, because he would be the perfect Academy Awards host. He would offend everybody in the room and bring people together.
But you have to know how to do it. You have to know how to do it. So I think this was tasteless. I think it was offensive.
This parade thing.
Yes, what they did. Maybe they're not racist, but it appeared to be racist. I mean, there was just poor taste. They didn't do it well. So Chris Rock, funny. I mean, Don Rickles, funny. This was just not funny. It was offensive. It was wrong. And as a Hispanic, totally inappropriate.
Okay. One more thing. I have to get both your reactions to this. Be careful now who you meet on dating sites. I'm not talking to you ladies. I'm talking to the audience. At least make sure you have no data limits on your phone. A Phoenix woman reportedly sent 159,000 text messages over 10 months to a man she went on one date with. Just one. Love at first sight, maybe. These weren't all lovey-dovey messages, though. Here's one. I'd make sushi out of your kidneys and chopsticks out of your hand bones, end quote. Is this overkill, no pun intended, Candace?
I mean, this is definitely on the creepier side of stories that I've read recently. I definitely stay away from online dating. I know plenty of people that do it, but I've just seen too many kooky stories, and I really do think that this is just the birth of the internet era that we're in. Is people get fascinated and get hooked, and this poor gentleman is really in it. So I'm just going to send him some luck tonight.
Yeah, don't you worry about the anonymity of the dating world, and when these people come into your life, you don't know what you're encountering. The profiles don't tell people enough. I mean, I'm so happy I married almost 25 years ago. I didn't have to deal with this. Well, thank you. Rebecca, she's probably questioning it, but I'm happy.
Hopefully you're not getting any kidney messages.
No, she's not. No, she hasn't cut my kidney.
Yeah,
look,
you look good. You look good. But I mean, really, thank goodness for the Me Too movement. People are talking, and there's conversations now about dating. We never heard so much about it before. People are questioning, is that appropriate? Is that not appropriate?
159,000 text messages.
Not appropriate.
How much time must you have in a day?
I know, but now it's a story. I mean, you didn't hear so much about this dating world, so thank goodness we're talking about it.
Thank you both, ladies. A lot of fun. We'll be right back with the last bite. Great job. You know what time it is. It's time for the last bite. Utah Senator Orrin Hatch left Capitol Hill this week after 42 years in the Senate. An incredible guy. Here's how he decided to say goodbye.
May God bless the Senate, and may He bless the United States of America. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.
That's how I'm going to end my last broadcast. I'm just going to drop the mic. It's time for all of us to say goodbye, too. That's all the time we have tonight. I'm Raymond Arroyo in for Laura Ingraham, and you can pre-order a copy of my forthcoming book for kids of all ages. It's called Will Wilder, The Amulet of Power. It's a fun adventure for the whole family, and one of the few middle grade books where the family goes on the adventure with the hero, and you can enjoy it together. Lots of action. Kids will love it. It publishes in late February. Good night from New York. Shannon Bream's next.